welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, the Senate engages various stakeholders to address the controversial grey areas in the Constitution. The Nigerian Bar Association asked Nigerians to buy into the anti-corruption war of the current administration. Nigerian troops arrest the Boko Haram ringleader in Yobe and free hostages being held by the captive and the group. And police investigating the murder of British Member of Parliament Joe Cox are highlighting the suspect's possible links to right-wing extremism. And on business news tonight, Nigeria's equities market soars to new highs ahead of foreign exchange reforms.
On sports news tonight, IAAF upholds ban on Russian athletes from all international competitions, including the 2016 Rio Olympics.
And from Abuja, I'm Gloria Umezuke. Inspector General of Police convenes a meeting of warring parties in the PDP towards finding a lasting solution to the crisis rocking the party.
We begin with the activities of the Senate as the lawmakers today started a two-day retreat to address controversial areas in the 1999 Constitution. The Constitution Review Committee is engaging opinion leaders in a conversation aimed at achieving accountability and governance, among other things. They expect their findings will help provide answers to questions raised on how federalism should be structured here in Nigeria. Our political correspondent Sheung Okimbaloye reports.
We have to restructure.
That has been the popular clamor from eminent Nigerians in the past weeks. There is no gainsaying that the 1999 Nigerian Constitution is fraught with many shortcomings, with the reality that it is a promulgation of a military decree far from the spirit of what may be referred to as a proper people's constitution. So, some Nigerian federal lawmakers are in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial center, alongside speakers of houses of assemblies from the 36 states of the Federation. The Senate Committee on Constitution Amendment is seeking ways of ironing out areas needed for the amendment, especially as it has to do with our federalism. It's for accountability in governance. The Deputy Senate President, who is the chairman of the Amendment Committee, walks up to the podium and he makes a case for the Constitution amendment process.
First is the need to always conclude constitutional amendment processes far ahead of election seasons. It reduces the contamination of an otherwise patriotic exercise by personal, political, or other narrow considerations. Therefore, in keeping with the marching order issued by the President of the Senate at the inauguration of this committee, we hope to conclude the present constitutional amendment exercise by December 2016.
The committee may have set before it a target date, but when the Senate President takes its turn, it wants the lawmakers to consider the experience of the past and reasons why the fourth alteration was delayed. He then proposed a deadline.
I would like you to kindly, for us Nigerians and all of us, let us deliver a new constitution to this country by the time we open the chapter of beginning of 2017. I think we will so doing, we'll be leaving a great legacy for ourselves.
The event was effectively kick-started with the speech of the Senate President, and speakers present their papers. The lawmakers in turn ask questions and give their contributions. The several issues confronting the nation are numerous, and so some of the lawmakers speak to China's television on the sideline of the event, especially on the issue of restructuring the nation.
You see, what I really believe is let's have leadership that can be able to perform so that Nigerians could be happy with the way the leadership is running.
We must come to the realization now that it is either that we admit that we have too many states that we can afford, or that we must drastically cut down the cost of running every state.
Well, it's a tough one because it's what should have been done ab initio. It's what should have been done a long time ago.
The Nigerian Constitution bears with it huge burden and a lot of loopholes many Nigerians believe, if not urgently fixed, will hurt the nation badly. With these efforts of the National Assembly, one will wonder whether or not the many national questions will be answered, or the essence of the 2014 confab recommendations won't be haunting us in time not too far from now. Shunwa Kimbaloye reporting for Channels Television News.
The Edo State Governor Adams Oshomole has charged the Nigerian Bar Association to champion a reform of the nation's justice system. He says judicial reforms would lead to better justice delivery, especially for the common man. Governor Oshomole was a special guest at the National Executive Council meeting of the NBA in Benin City, the Edo State capital, where Nigerians were also asked to see the ongoing anti-corruption war as a collective responsibility.
The entrance of the special guest of honor, Governor Adams Oshomole, marks the formal commencement of the ceremony. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Ken Mosiah, takes the opening remarks, after which the gathering receives a warm welcome from the chairman of the NBA Benin branch, Mr. Ede Asenogwa, and the Chief Justice of the host, Edo State, Justice Cromwell Idahosa. NBA National President Augustine Alege in his speech dwelt among other issues on curbing the menace of militancy in the Niger Delta.
They should know that this will be our fight against corruption. It should be a collective fight and should not be termed the corruption fight by President Buhari. Persons who are fighting against the collective interest of the state must stop. The price of crude oil has dropped so badly that for us to be inflicting additional pain on Nigerians by breaking pipelines and then reducing the volume of crude that we produce will impoverish our nation and bring more hardship on Nigerian people. We urge all those involved to seek alternative means of dealing with their grievances so that our nation can move forward.
For the special guest of honor and governor of the host state, Adams Oshomole, it was an opportunity to talk on the justice system in the country.
When it is said, and I'm sure we are all familiar with this, that justice should not only be done, it should be seen to have been done. The eyes with which it is seen are not legal eyes. They are the eyes of very ordinary people, including motor mechanics, sweepers, dogs, cooks, and even comrades.
And to highlight the efforts of the Buhari administration in fixing the nation.
If, as Buhari said, if we don't kill corruption, it will kill us, and we don't want to die, then we must allow justice to have its way without delaying it.
This is the last NEC meeting to be held under the leadership of the present administration. But the bar says it remains committed to playing its role in national development.
To take a look at the issues surrounding amendment of the Constitution, I'm now being joined on the news at 10 by legal practitioner, Mr. Jiti Ogunyi. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, there are those who feel that what we need is not an amendment but an overhaul of the entire document. What do you think?
Absolutely. The Constitution that we operate currently came by way of a decree in 1999, precisely decree number 24 of 1999. And before that decree was promulgated, we had a Constitution debate coordinating committee that made recommendation to the then Provisional Ruling Council, the military legislative parody. And then eventually the Constitution was promulgated, and that's why a lot of people say that this Constitution is a military diktat. Between 1999 and now, we've had several amendments, and we're wondering how many amendments we're going to have moving forward. Why can't we just have a newly made Constitution, particularly because of the fact that for a Constitution to be truly binding on the people, it has to be process-led, it has to be credible, it has to be democratically fashioned, and it must be people-driven. This Constitution is not. And so what is going on is that you can amend this Constitution for how many times? It remained essentially a law that was given to us by the military.
And you talked about the process which it's taking now. Even if you're going to do the overhaul, there's going to be a process again. But there's so many grey areas that are needed to be looked at. And one then wonders whether the risk retreat they're having is what's going to shape the debate when it eventually comes to the floor. Do you think that the suggestions they're putting forward at this 2-day retreat are going to have an effect on what happens moving forward?
Yeah, it may have an effect. It will be playing the ostrich to say that it won't have an effect, but it won't have a fundamental effect. What we need is a fundamental remaking of the Constitution. And why we say this is this. I listen to some of them speak. And it's obvious to me, for example, that none of them will be willing to legislate out of existence their respective states, for example, to cut down the number of local government, for example, and so on and so forth. So they won't make such fundamental changes. And so if Nigeria is the size of California or Texas, and between 1979 and now, we've atomized states so that we are now 36 fledgling states that cannot even pay salaries. So what do we need to do about this? And the president made a point about this in his maiden presidential broadcast when he wondered aloud that, look, when I was in government, we were 19, but now we're now 36, and many of these states cannot pay salaries. And that for his own personal opinion, he wouldn't know whether some of these states would have to be merged.
Is that
he says that, go back to the tape. He said, the president said that. But between a wish and a reality, there's a wide gulf. And the reality of our situation now is that we either restructure, we either return to a manageable federating state, a set of federating states, or we collapse. We can't continue like this. It's obvious to me, it's obvious to them, but this kind of retreats and amendments can only go thus far. It can address the fundamental issues.
Fundamental issues like federalism, structure, security. What should be the people's involvement in this discussion? Because you find out that they have their conversation, they go to the floor, they debate, and at the end of the day, the people say it doesn't reflect what they want. So what do you think it should be?
You know, if they're not going to seize the bull by the horn, the people will have to, continue to make inputs on very critical area. For example, policing, how you devolve power, devolution of powers, etc., etc. And so when people begin to do this, it's possible that they will listen, and you can have such, facial amendments that they can only make those facial amendments. And so if people make those contributions, no matter how wonderful those contributions are, within the context of what they want to do, they can't go very far.
All right, legal practitioner Mr. Jiti Ogunye, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 tonight. And in part 2, after the break, several humanitarian groups come to the aid of internally displaced persons in Borno. That's in a moment. Just stay with us.